Hello, Iris J here with Madrona's Pulse Teachings. I hope that you're all doing well. I am here talking to you about a major shift that's happening for us mid-July 2023. You are going to see dogs walking back. There's Gus. There's a new little guy who's joined our furry family who will probably make himself known as well. And if this is your first time on my channel, then you just met Gus, who likes to video bomb me when I'm in the woods. It's this gorgeous evening in British Columbia, Canada, where I am, and I thought I would try and film outside. Hopefully the elements, like the winds, stay with me. And okay, folks, this is a big shift. So we're talking about the nodes of the moon, the transiting nodes of the moon. The nodes are very important in our own birth chart. If especially, as most of you know, I'm an evolutionary astrologer. We really work with the nodes. It's actually, there's complicated ways of coming into them when we read the natal chart. It really depends on everyone's chart, how we read the nodes. We're right now talking about the transiting nodes, where they are right now in the sky. And the nodes are not objects, they are points. They're points in the moon's path where it intersects the sun. So this is actually what makes an eclipse. We have an eclipse when we have a full moon and or a new moon happening near one of the nodes. And the nodes have a lot of energy in astrology around our soul, our soul's purpose, around karma. Traditionally, we talk, especially in the transiting nodes, which is what I'm talking about now. The North Node is generally talking about our growth, what we're evolving into, the energies that we're calling into us. And the South Node, the transiting South Node, is really about karmic release, what we are ready to release, what we've probably been journeying with for quite a while, and they're always working together, right? We release energy so that we can expand outwards. We can't, this really came up during the Scorpio eclipse. May 5th, we had that Scorpio eclipse. We were really releasing some of that scorpionic energy in our psyche so that we could create space in our psyche to expand where the North Node has been in Taurus into the Taurus parts of our life. So right now, the North Node, as I'm making this video, is in Taurus and the South Node is in Scorpio. They journey through a sign for about 18 months, and so they're getting ready to shift. And so on July 17th, mid-July, we're going to have the shift of the nodes. And that North Node is going to move into Aries, and the South Node is going to move into Libra. And unlike most of the planets and asteroids that are moving, the nodes move what we would view as backwards. So they move into a sign at the 29th degree. So that North Node is going to come into the 29th degree of Aries. What do you know? We had an eclipse at the 29th degree in April. April 19th, 20th eclipse, which was a big eclipse for a lot of people. Spoiler alert, some of that energy is going to come up. And then the South Node is going to move into 29 degrees of Libra. So I want to open up speaking in a narrative, weaving a narrative of what this shift is inviting us to consider. Some of the things we're probably going to feel. This nodal shift is kind of happening with a bang because the nodes are squaring Pluto. Okay, I've been talking about the nodes squaring Pluto for quite a while. This is one of the reasons it's really important, because as the nodes shift signs, as we start shifting the energy that we're trying to expand and release in our own psyches, and then of course that's also happening collectively, we're squaring Pluto. We're squaring the archetype of transformation, the archetype of death and rebirth, who is doing a major shift through the final degrees of Capricorn. If you have anything at 29 degrees, 28 degrees of Aries, Libra, Capricorn, and also Cancer, this immediate shift is very significant in your psyche, life, depends what house you have these in. And just that goes without, if you have a lot of things or a couple of planets or even one planet in Libra or Aries, at some point the nodes are going to go over that. If you have a nodes in Libra or Aries, you're going to have either a nodal return or what we call an opposition, which is where the transiting north node sits on your south node. These are all significant transits. If you have a lot in one of these houses, you might want to reach out to an astrologer, either a professional or a friend, someone that can help you kind of make sense of some of the energy shifts that are coming, because these are significant when they're personal. They're significant when they're not. They're definitely significant when they're personal. And let's talk about what this energy is. North node coming into Aries. Aries is our sense of self. Aries is our identity. The North Node has been in Taurus. It has been going through this part of our life and psyche and chart that is inviting us to create strong foundations, that was helping us to expand into a stronger self-sufficiency, the resources and our own values that create a strong foundation for our life. And so the North Node was going through that area, and now it's going to move into Aries, which is the self, which is so that the self can expand. When we had that eclipse at the 29th degree of Aries in April, I was really working with the phrase of the sacred self. This is what Aries wants to invite. This is what the North Node wants to invite. Aries is our impulses. It is, when Aries is enlightened, it is our sacred impulses. It is where we want to be a leader in our own life. Okay. The word leader gets used with Aries so much, and that's part of the archetype. If you have strong Aries energy, a lot of Aries energy doesn't like to have a boss, right? But when we're just talking about it archetypally, it's the leader in our own life. So when Aries is, a lot of kind of the pop astrology memes that represent Aries, it's kind of just this, it's all my ego. I don't care about people. I'm highly competitive. That's not enlightened Aries. That's not higher functioning of Aries. That's kind of Aries that's moving from fear. Aries that's incredibly competitive. That's moving from fear as well. Unless we're performing in a competitive sport, right? But there's certain times when it's useful. But even if that energy gets carried into the rest of our life, Aries moving out of fear. And really, we're talking about being able to claim a sense of self that we probably have never been able to claim before, because every cycle with the nodes is inviting a new experience of it in this life, in our psyches. And I have the dates. The last time that we had the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra were 2004 to 2006. So you can reflect back to what was going on for you at that point in time. You might see, whole new versions of some of those themes come up. It's absolutely possible. And I think, the biggest question that's kind of guiding the North Node as it shifts into Aries is the question, who am I? Okay, who am I? Who am I now? Who am I now with everything I've gone through, with coming out of 3 years of a global pandemic and crisis? Who am I now in the ways that my relationships and my sense of self and my dreams and my desires and my position in life have changed in any way? Who am I now? And the next 18 months are going to be the North Node opening up experiences. There they go. That little bullet that you see is named Finnegan. He is a little bullet. If it gets too much, I will stop. I thought that this would be a calming time to film a video. So who am I now? And we're getting invited into this sacred sense of self, because this is about authentic impulses, authentic desire for who I feel I am in my belly. And for some reasons, for so many reasons, where we come from, our families, conditioning, societal standards, our own fears, we haven't been able to step out in a certain way. And the North Node in Aries is inviting us to embrace and embody a new sense of self, new in certain ways. And this is directly related to the South Node, who's going through Libra, who is wanting to shift our relational way of being. So by releasing habits, mindsets, practices in our relational way of being, we create space to embody that new sense of self. They are always related. Nope. So what? So this relational way of self, this is our relationships. Libra is our relationships. It's also our values. Okay. So in the South Node is always going to clean up and clear out either patternings or karmic energy that we've just come in with in the Libra area of our chart. This was happening in Scorpio. It was happening in the deepest way that we form intimate connections, in the way that we soak up the energy of others, in some of our own fears and some of our intergenerational traumas that we're just born into. The South Node went through and it was releasing some of that energy. And now it's coming into our relational way of being, and especially in our one-on-one relationships. So exactly, I mean, and this could be certain patterns, this could be patterns that we've outgrown. It doesn't mean that our one-on-one relationships are going to end. It doesn't mean that we're all going to break up. Okay. So please, if you see that on pop astrology memes, it doesn't mean that we're all going to break up. Let's just put that out there right now. It does mean that the way that we release, the way that we relate wants to be enlightened. It wants to support our sacred self shining through in our life. So we might be given situations to look at certain relationships where we're not being supported in the ways that we want to be. And that, this isn't really about the other people. It's actually more about how we've been holding ourselves. Have we been providing too much and not feeling it reciprocated in the ways that we want or need it to be? Have we been hiding ourselves and not showing up in the way that we want to show up for others? So there's so many ways that this energy can manifest in our relationships. And I think it's also really about letting go of fear, the fear that keeps us from either overcompensating or hiding and not showing. And so, Libra is ultimately about balance. It's ultimately about creating equality and justice and beauty. So how can we come into relationships that actually bring more beauty for our life in the way that we relate to others and in the way that we honor who we are now? Who we were 5 years ago, who we were 10 years ago, who we were 20 years ago. Like, if we have the same relationships throughout our life, we have to be allowed to change. We have to be allowed to grow. And, that's what a really loving, supporting relationship can help us to do that. And so with friends, with colleagues, with partners, wherever we have one-on-one relationships, we might see some shifts. We might feel tension as we're asked to come in to releasing, whatever releasing means. Yes, absolutely. There might be some friendships that we outgrow. There might be some relationships that we realize we've really gone in different directions and we don't meet each other in the way that we really desire to be met. Or maybe we just stop having expectations for other people because, again, it's really not about the other people. It's really about us owning what we need in relationships, because Libra is ultimately about our values. How have our values changed? How have they shifted? Once our values change, who we want to hang out with changes. How we want to spend our money changes. So these are the types of things that South Node is going over. And depending where you have it, that's how your one-on-one relationships are going to show up during this transit. And things could shift. And again, they're working in tandem. Relational ways of being shift so that we can bring ourselves out into the world a little bit more. And let's just talk about that Pluto. Okay, so as we come into this, so for mid-July straight through into August, especially just during that time, we have the nodes squaring that Pluto retrograde. This is soul deep. This is the nodes square Pluto, the nodes at a major shift. We might face certain circumstances, certain experiences. This could be internal or external that really push us into showing us some of the work that we have to do with the nodes moving through this new area in our chart, in our psyche, in our life, in our body. However that is, right? Pluto is here to transform, and it's here to transform what our soul's journey is in this life. So just that, and some of this is sometimes unconscious. Like, that's why when Pluto is doing its thing, we can sometimes really resist it because our mind isn't in the same place that our soul is a lot of the time. And the beauty of transits is that they create circumstances so that we can evolve, so that we can become a little bit more aware of something like our soul's desire. And usually it starts to resonate. Usually there starts to be this alignment. And when we really release our mind's idea of how this is supposed to be, or we really get into the questioning of, well, maybe I'm being shown something about what I truly want, because that's not always easy to access. Sometimes, for a lot of good reasons, we have to cover over our truest desires. And Aries is that fire of self that wants to burn. And, whether it's difficult childhood or financial struggles or being a single mom, raising kids, we have to cover over things. And maybe certain circumstances are changing so that we can at least integrate a little bit more of that soul song that just wants to sing. And usually Pluto has to break down some things in order for that to happen. And so we could notice that happening at that around 29th, 28 degrees of Aries, 28, 29 degrees of Libra during this next little while. Also, a really lovely thing is that just after this nodal shift, Venus, who's in Leo, is going to go retrograde. She is going to be trining the North Node and sextiling the South Node when this happens. So this is just really a call to self-love, to the idea that the relationships that, also, I didn't even mention that with Libra, we're going to be calling in new relationships probably to our life during this. That's part of the Aries self doing its thing. And so we're kind of cleaning up so that this Venus, who's learning all about self-love this summer, there in Leo, can be in this very supportive relationship, calling in the energy of the types of people that we may need to meet in order to expand our dreams in the way that Aries wants us to be able to do this. Okay. So this is getting long, and I don't want to go that long in these videos. There's so much to talk about with this energy. It's really exciting. It's really juicy, and there could be some waves and some turbulence, but we roll with it. And I'm wishing you all well and blessings. Take care.